Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
For newcomers and old-timers alike, the Chloe Sanctuary hopes to give you insight into the health and happiness of your companion parrots. We hope to help you build happy homes using reliable and proven tools. The best homes are built on a rock-solid foundation. And the best foundation for a happy home is the bedrock of science. When we stand on the shoulders of giants, the scientists who have worked long and diligently to understand our companions, we can reach new heights of understanding. And understanding is the key to success. What does avian veterinary medicine have to tell us about our feathered friends? How can we prevent illness, see the signs of disease before it's too late, and care for our birds through ill health? What light does behavioral science shed on their nature, needs, and hopes? How can the tools of behavior shaping make our homes happier for us and our companions? How can we deal with biting, screaming, or other misbehavior? What is it like to live among parrots? Let them roam around about you and share a life with them. How much freedom do you give them? What happens if you form a bond of trust with them? Watch and see what understanding their true nature can do for you. Come with us on a journey as we do more than examine a parrot's world. We live in it. Make some popcorn and bring in a few wood blocks. Let everyone have something to chew and a comfortable place to perch. Cockatude is a presentation of the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.
Cockatoos with attitude. Cockatude.
Hi, and welcome to Cockatude, Cockatoos with Attitude, Episode 30. Teaching Health and Happiness, Mentoring Your Parrots. Well, let me introduce who I've got with me today. In my lap is Cecil, who used to be mate bonded to Simone. Right, Cecil? Right, Cecil Bird? And Babaloo right next to me. I have Peaches over here on my side. Right, Peaches? Right, Peaches? And over here is Cause. Cause, come up and take a bow. Come on, Cause. Okay, you taking a bow? You gonna take a bow? Okay. Good. That's Chloe right there. Chloe Bird, what do you have to say? She's growing in her head feathers since Snowball took that nasty turn that some of the males in captivity will. And we have Salamander. Pay attention, you silly bird. And Sugar. Sugar Bird. Hi, Sugar Bird. Babaloo. So today we're going to talk about teaching your bird health and happiness. And when I say teaching them health, that may sound strange, but you'll get what I'm saying by the end of this video, I'm sure. In the wild, these guys would be trained by their parents. About 95% of what these guys do is behaviors. They learn when they're young. In the wild, they will learn this from their parents, from their siblings, and from the flock around them. But unfortunately, when they're in captivity, they tend not to learn many of the basic things they need to survive. Right, Cecil? Cecil was a good example. When he came to us, Hi, Cecil. Why don't you come up and show everybody how great you are? I'm the great Cecil. I'm the great Cecil bird. He had all of his feathers on his head were just sticking up as pins. No one had preened them. So he looked like, Pinhead from the horror movies. He actually knew very little about what to do in this world. He had shark's eyes, or like a doll's eyes. And when you tried to get him to respond to almost anything, he didn't respond. So it took a long time, but he's learned a whole bunch of things, and we're going to talk about those things as we go along. So some people say that they don't want to teach their birds behaviors like ringing bells or picking up a ball and dropping it into a little hoop, or some of those baby toys where you're just sorting things out and putting them into little trays and things like that. So excuse my voice today. I cut wood yesterday. I make most of these pieces of wood. These are just regular, just cut pieces of wood with no holes, but for our toys, I cut the pieces of wood in different shapes and then drill holes through them. I forgot to put on a mask yesterday. And if you're breathing sawdust for a while, you get a gravelly voice. So I don't have a cold or anything. I just have a gravelly voice from making toys, making toy parts. What a beautiful song, Peaches. Peaches, is there a second verse? Is there a second verse to that song, Peaches? No, not today. Usually there is, Peaches. Usually there is. So, we shouldn't treat them as circus animals, and I certainly understand that viewpoint. Come here, Cecil. He still hasn't quite gotten out of his nippy behavior since she left. He also reacts a little bit to the cameras. If he's in here without cameras, he doesn't do this. And if the lights aren't so bright. Right, boy? Right, boy? Yeah, I haven't seen this behavior since the last time we did the video. No. Normally he doesn't do any threatening motions, but I think he's associated some of that with the filming now, so. Because that's when he was in the same room with Simone.
We hope you will consider supporting us on Patreon today. This is how it works. We produce up to 2 videos a month. As a patron, you pledge to give us a donation, whatever you feel is right and meets your budget. Patreon gives us your gift monthly. You can easily set a limit on how much you donate a month. You can change the amount of your pledge at any time. Your gift will allow us to continue bringing you entertaining and informative videos. Patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary. We look forward to your participation in Cockatude.
Well, you can come sit with me if you want, Mander. Come on down. I just don't want you beating on things so the video sounds like nothing but bang, bang, bang. Yeah. And you're good at that. You're good at making those banging sounds. Yes, you are. I know about you. That's why I have my arm up. When you get a toy, you're dangerous. Yes, you are. You're a good bird, but you get dangerous. Yes, you do. It was, at one time, you couldn't even sit next to him if he had a toy. You would have to actually face him, not sit next to him, but face him and keep an eye on him the whole time. Because he'd run at you with the toy and just bite the heck out of you. And right now, he's up close to me with that toy. He may catch me just because he's trying to use my shirt as part of his toy. How about something else? Why don't you use this as part of your toy? There you go. 2 toys is better than 1. It is. What do you say, Sal? Do you think so? So he knew some behaviors when he came to us. And I taught Hello. Yeah. So one of his behaviors when he came to us was, okay, bang. And let's do some sit-ups. Very good boy. Let's do some sit-ups. Come on, sit-ups. I'll sit there for a second. Okay, sit-ups. One. Come on, sit-ups. 1, 2, 3. Very good bird. Very good bird. Woo-hoo. Hello, sweetie. Hello. So why would you teach a bird to do something like that? Now, I don't know why the people who taught him those behaviors did what they did, but it's a social interaction between you and the bird. And you learn a lot from each other in the process of learning these behaviors. But think of it this way, too. You don't want to train a bird to do something like that just so you can show them off. That's not the point. But most people teach their kids to play chutes and ladders, or they teach them to play Uno, card games and that kind of things. Those particular things, they train spatial understanding. When you're playing a game like chutes and ladders, you learn to put things in a certain location. You learn to manipulate things in space, okay? It's not just a game. You also learn to work with others, to take your turn. There's a sharing behavior that's involved too. So all of this kind of training, when you're teaching a bird to do even these kind of behaviors, which don't have much purpose in the world, you're teaching the bird about yourself, about reactions from things in the world, when other people see the bird do these behaviors, they'll react a certain way, so the bird will learn how people react. And that means that someone like Salamander he'll do behaviors, and so will Bob, to get attention and to be part of what's going on. If I were to laugh or tell a joke, if I told a joke, you would laugh, right? Would you? You probably would, right? Would you laugh if I told a joke? Huh? It's weird. I'll tell jokes, and I've seen other people do this. You tell a joke, and the bird laughs right along with everyone else. Sometimes the bird laughs before you actually hear any humans laugh. You finish the joke, the bird laughs, and then other people kick in. So how they know that? They're picking up cues from you. Obviously, they don't know the words of the joke, so it has to be physical cues from you telling a joke that they learn. So when you're training your bird to do behaviors such as step up or targeting, usually the first behavior you teach a bird is targeting. You have a treat that they like, and you put it out there for them. And at first you put it up close, they take it, then you go a little farther away and a little farther away, and you go to different sides, always training in the same kind of environment. We have a training video. I'll have all the different videos that we have that I'm going to talk about while we're doing this, because this is kind of summing up a lot of what we've talked about. I'll have that in the show notes at YouTube. So when you're targeting, you eventually you're doing it in one place at first, then you start targeting somewhere else. Like when they're sitting on your arm, you target. This is called generalization. You teach a specific behavior in a specific location with few distractions, and then you generalize the behavior so it can happen elsewhere. He can go out, he can do that, bang bang behavior or the sit-up behavior anywhere. Bob, step up. Step up, Bob. Step up. He's really bad about this. He'll do what you want, but you kind of have to make him do it. Would you step up, please? Very good boy. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. How are you looking today? I gotta clean you up again. I cleaned you up this morning. Poor thing. You big silly. So, like with kids, you're teaching them the basics. Now, when Coco came to us, and she can't be in this room because she makes so much noise, and I've got her a lot more quiet when I have the camera tripods out. But she'll just go off in the middle and just go off for 5 minutes whenever you don't expect it. So, if you were to go and sit in a kindergarten class and watch what the teachers got the kids doing, and you think about what she's teaching, maybe she's got them coloring or something like that. These are skills that some people never use when they get older. Some people will go off into mathematics and they'll never color anything. They'll never draw anything. I'm not much at drawing things unless it's on a computer. So there are certain skills that you learn that you may never use. But the process of learning, the process of how to absorb the information, that's the most important thing to learn. And the original meaning of education was literally to know how to learn. So an educated person isn't someone who's had a bunch of facts crammed into their heads. An educated person is one who has learned how to learn. So you fill in the basics. Like when I went to school, one of my mentors, Tim Ullman, was my German instructor, but he was my mentor in my education. He helped me to round out my education by basically saying, well, what have you taken? And have you thought about taking astronomy? And have you thought about taking logic? And why would you take logic? What would be the point? He didn't tell me what to take, but he certainly made it clear to me where the holes were in my knowledge. And he helped me to make the decisions necessary to fill in those things. But it's been quite helpful because knowing how to learn, I have been able to run into situations that might have stopped me, but I was able to study and learn how to deal with them and then go on. Like working with these birds, I was able to figure out where I could take the classes with Dr. Friedman in behaviorworks.org. And once I was able to figure these things out on my own. So that's what you're doing with the birds. You're helping them, right, Salamander? What do you say, Salamander? You're helping them to learn how to learn in our world and how to learn about our behavior and what they can do within certain boundaries. So you actually do help them to learn to test those boundaries as well. And you have to learn how to set up the walls. And they got to be soft walls. If you've got, unless they're chewing on an electrical cord, you have to gently redirect them. So unless it's a danger to them, gentle redirection is the best bet. And so we have a whole video on training that talks about these basic things.
If you are enjoying our videos, we hope that you can find it in your heart to support our work. It costs between $25,000 to $30,000 a year to care for our flock of heartbroken and abused birds. Most of our birds came with feather destructive disorder. Even a basic exam with blood work costs $300. Medical emergencies cost us thousands a year. We are a non-profit, and donations are tax-deductible to the full extent of the law. We need your support. Birds deserve a happy and healthy life. Become our patron at www.patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary to support us on a per-video basis, or donate at our webpage today.
So in the wild, they would learn from their parents, their siblings, the flock. About 95% of what they know would come from the interactions they had there. They do have some basic behaviors that are normally, they're inbuilt, they're innate. The squawking when the sun rises and when the sun sets, that's a normal behavior, it should be encouraged. You want to encourage their normal behaviors if you can fit them in. If they're going to yell in the morning at the sunrise and they're going to squawk at night when the sun goes down, and they get that out of their system and do it at those normal times, it's less likely they're going to do screaming, which is repetitive squawking, for hours on end during the day. So you encourage it at those times. You encourage those behaviors when you can in situations where it's acceptable. And you kind of clearly figure that out. Is it acceptable if they're screaming in the kitchen? Or do you want them to do that when it's dinner time? Or do you want them to be quiet for their food? It's fairly easy to train those behaviors because that's not a time where squawking is normally going to occur. So they'll squawk when there's a danger or something unusual. This guy, Bob, will often start squawking. If you go and look at his cage, he'll be looking out the window. If he's looking out the window, there's a hawk out there or a coyote walked by. We're kind of in the sticks. So he's giving a warning call. You don't want to stop that. You don't want to try to stop a warning call. And if you walk out of the room and they call to you, you want to answer those calls, because if they don't get a response, a bird will, it's normal for the flock to respond. So when you don't respond, maybe something got you. Maybe there's a danger out there. So in most cases, repetitive screaming, come here, sweetheart. Come on, you can sit on my chest if you want. Come on, baby. Come on. That repetitive screaming. In most cases, that repetitive screaming is just a broken flock call. They tried to call for you, tried to call, nothing happened, so they get into a habit of screaming. Sometimes it can also be that they want something and you don't get it, you don't understand what they want, or you ignore them when they're asking for it. You may know they want something, like they want out, but you're not going to do it, and you don't replace that behavior with something else. Some birds, if you give them something they like, a particular type of toy or a particular treat, they'll stop screaming. Gotta be careful though there, because sometimes you teach the wrong thing. For example, if you've got a bird that starts screaming and you give them a treat, you're rewarding the screaming. So you want to wait until they're quiet before you reward them, then you're rewarding them for being quiet. That's all part of the education process. That's just general. Now, when you get to talking about specific things, they should know how to use their feet. So if you hand them something, they can use their beak. Understand it? They should know that they can just pick up something with their beak. They should also know that they can handle it with their foot. And their foot is a grasping tool. It's not built into them to know that. A good example is Coco, and I hope to have her, and I'll probably just have to video her outside of this room, setting up a camera where she doesn't see it. But when I first got her, she had very loving humans who were caring for her. But they didn't realize she needed to be taught how to use her feet. So she didn't even know how to hold an object. She wouldn't have done what he just did. She would not have taken it with her beak or her foot and held it. She wouldn't have done that. She used her beak, but she didn't use her feet at all. So now she'll walk over to a ladle. She'll grab a big spoon, a kitchen spoon, and it's got something she wants on it, and she'll pick up the whole thing and eat it. So you need to teach them how to use their feet, and then also when to use their wings, when it's a good time to fly. So you can train them to fly inside the house just by standing a foot away from them. Normally if you have them step up, you just get your arm a little bit closer. You know, they may be here and here, like that far away, and then just call their name. And like look at them like you want them to come. So you say, Salamander, or Sal, with a certain tone of voice. And I can do that with Lorelei, who wouldn't come back here today. I can do that. What are you doing, sweetheart? You're getting a little wound up? Are we getting wound up? Yeah, I can tell. You want to sing? Hello. 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 So you can teach them to fly over to you and teach them to do something. Now, normally, breeders don't teach birds to fly. So you have a bird that has never been taught and normally doesn't fly very well. We still have birds here that if they suddenly catch themselves flying, and that sounds strange, doesn't it? But what happens is they get scared and they take off. It's an automatic response and they fight or flight. Literally, they don't like to fight, so they turn to fly away. Hello, Peaches. Hello, Peaches. So they turn to fly away, and they go, and then they land, and then they look at you like how they get here. And hello, sweetheart. Hello, Peach. Hello. You're getting nippy. What's going on? Not feeling too good? Bob, let's not do that, you silly. There's no one for you to talk to. We just have cameras up. There's no one on the other side. I think she thinks she can talk to someone. Hello. I'm not talking to anyone who's really here. I'm talking to people who will see this later, silly. This is how she acts when she thinks there's someone on the phone, and then she just keeps going and going until she finally gets to talk to them. But there's nobody to talk to, sweetheart. Not yet. Nobody can talk back to you, sweetie. So you teach them to use their feet like hands. And they can't do this with their feet. They can only open and close. There's one single muscle to do that. So you teach them to grasp and to hold things. A good thing for that is a craft stick. You can put some almond butter on it or peanut butter or something so that they can grab a hold of it and actually hold it up to their face and eat it. Hi, Peach. So that's one way to teach them. And then later on, you can give them spoons and not forks. You don't want them hurting themselves with a fork, but are objects that aren't sharp, and let them go ahead and eat off those things, right, Peaches? Well, you're just a really vocal girl today. So with the wings and feathers, it's a learning process between you and the bird. First is there's the flight, which you want to teach them how to be able to fly, how to land. It takes practice. That's basically how they're going to learn, because they're that plus vicariously watching the other birds around you, if you have any other birds that can fly. Without that, though, it's just a matter of practice. And if the tail position isn't right, and they don't get their secondary feathers just right, they're going to crash into things for a while. They may take off and go a little higher than they planned or a little lower than they planned, crash to the floor. But eventually they'll figure it out. And unless you continue to have them fly over to you, which is a good thing to train, because if you need the bird to come back, for some reason somebody leaves the door open or whatever, and you've taught them that when you put up your arm and you call their name, they're to fly over to your arm, it's pretty easy to get them back, especially if you have their favorite treat. The other behaviors that need to be taught, and this is of course also teaching you and your bird how to communicate to each other, and teaching them how to be social and do good things in a social environment. You can start teaching them the veterinary behaviors, like opening the beak so you can see inside. I can't do it when I'm holding her, but I can grab a hold of her mandible up here and I can open her beak up and look in there down her throat to make sure nothing's gone wrong. And you can see if there's redness or if the inside of the throat doesn't look right. And you say, well, what's right? Well, normally your bird will be right. So the first, if you go to a vet exam and the vet examines your bird, and he says the throat's normal, then you can look down and say, that's a normal throat. That's one way to learn. You can also look that kind of thing up in the Basaba Manual for Citizen Birds. And there's pictures in there to help you know what's right and what's wrong. So they need to know they have to be able to open their wings up for the vet so the vet can look under the wings. They have to be able to, I'm not going to turn her upside down, but they have to be able to be flipped upside down. All the birds here can do it. She can, but she has her injured neck. So because of the 6 fused vertebrae in her neck, I'm hesitant to just flip her over when I don't need to. Right, baby? You should teach them to accept a towel if they have to be picked up with a towel. Sometimes when they're at the vet will be using a towel to hold them. So they have to be comfortable with that or they're going to get scared. You really don't want their heart rate going way up. So that's another reason that you should educate them on towels. And so once in a while, you're going to, spend a little time here and there getting them used to towels. First, you get them used to the towel, which you can drape it over something and put a treat over here if they're really afraid of you. If they're terribly afraid of towels, you would put the treat far away from the towel and then slowly put the treats closer and closer until it comes up to the towel. And eventually until they have to go into the towel. And then you can touch them with the towel and, you get the idea. Just little tiny baby steps until they're good with the towel. You want them to be rounded out and comfortable in their world. And can you imagine how you would be if your mother and father had worked that way with you when you entered the dentist office? Most people are afraid of dentists. I'd say the majority of people, from the statistics I've seen, they're probably the number one place people don't want to go is to the dentist. So if you had been brought up this way and then given a treat when you left the dentist's office, you probably wouldn't be having problems about going. So you can do the same thing with your bird. You have to be able to have their feet touched. And you got to do their nails, so you certainly want them to not have a problem with having their feet touched, right, Peaches? That way you can do their nails. Although this one, she used to be good about having her nails done, didn't you? Didn't you? But now to get her nails done, you have to put a collar on her. Because she just won't. She goes after the Dremel, even though it doesn't hurt her. And she makes a game of it. Why would I say she makes a game of it? Well, that's because once you take the collar off, it's like, what are we doing now? She acts like she's all freaked out. The second you take off the collar, it's da-da-da-da-da-da. What's up? Where are we going? What are we doing? Nice song, Peach. Nice song, Peaches. What's up, Bob? Salamander? What are you doing? Mander, salamander. So they need to learn how to flip over, and and this process too is a socialization. So in being flipped over and letting you touch their heads and feel down their bodies and all that's a socialization behavior. So, and it makes them more comfortable in the world. If they're more comfortable, they're less likely to have issues. Get away from the tripods, please. Thank you, Bob. They're less likely to have issues. You have to be able to be touched on the tail, although you don't want to do this as a regular thing. You have to be able to see that their feathers are normal and that nothing's going wrong. You have to touch their bodies in physical exams, which we have a video on that. So when you do your exams, to make sure that they're physically okay, they don't have any problems that are developing, so that you can get ahead of a problem, so that you can see it before it becomes a big problem and get them to the vet. This isn't so that you don't go to the vet. This is a problem. A lot of bird people don't take their birds to the vet. Every bird should be seen by their vet yearly. They need to have a full blood workup at least every 5 years. Some vets like to do it more than that. Right, baby? Right. So what other kind of things are you going to teach for their health and happiness? Obviously, when they go to the vet, if they're okay with being touched and handled and you touch their feet, and you can look in their you can look in their beaks and you can check them out like this and they don't have a problem, that makes their life more comfortable. Well, what about with other birds? Well, Peach is not too fond of other birds. Okay. But as you notice, I put them close to each other, and I think the reaction was from both of them was like, what are you doing? They didn't freak out. They didn't have any negative reactions to each other. They just looked at it like, why is Why is Dawn putting us so close together? We don't normally sit close to each other. You want them to be able to be in the same room with another bird, not necessarily, especially male and female. You don't want them getting too close because mate bonding would be a problem. Once they become mate bonded, it's like your friends that they got married and you haven't heard from them in a while. With these guys, that honeymoon lasts a lifetime. So the females especially won't pay attention to you. Right now, Chloe's coming out of a mate bond because it went sour, and it happens in captivity. And they do go sour in captivity, and the males become aggressive. Some other species, it can be the females that become aggressive. Not in cockatoos, but some of the other parrot species, the females can also become aggressive. So you want them to be able to be in the same room with another bird. So you have to teach them that socialization, and especially with males to males and females to females, you want to teach them to preen each other, and that means preening each other on the head. You don't allow them to preen anywhere else, and that even when you're talking about male or female preening, whether it's same-sex preening, you don't want them to preen below the neck. So once they're out of the range of the area, which would be right around here, that loop, wherever she can't reach with her own beak, it's okay for someone to preen. If they start preening under the wings or under the tail or anything like that, you want to stop that behavior because you don't need them to get sexually excited. And I say that because it does happen. Our trainer is actually Lorelei. She wouldn't come in here, but she trains everyone to preen. She taught Bob to preen. You'd think after he'd been in 8 homes, he would know how to preen, but he didn't. And he just recently started preening Cause, and he and Cause didn't get along prior to this. So when Cause's sister left and went to New Jersey, then Cause started looking for other friends, and she found Bob. And Bob's being nice to her, and that's good. So she knew how to preen, he knew how to preen. They didn't preen together. They're different species. It's they're not doing anything but heads. That's fine. It's actually good. So other things that are important for their health and happiness, and mental happiness especially, is toys. We have a video on how to make toys, but in that video we didn't talk about the purpose of the toys. These guys are highly intelligent, so they need to use their body to manipulate things. So they use their feet and beak and chew up wood and tear up toys, figure things out. We have these little nut and bolt kits that are made for toddlers, and they take them apart. They understand how a screw works. They figure that out pretty fast. Once they know which way to turn it, they don't turn it the wrong way. A lot of animals don't have that much savvy, so they'll just kind of wiggle something back and forth, but these guys figure it out and they unscrew things. I've had birds actually unscrew reverse thread items. It won't go one way, so they find out it'll go the other, and they'll actually unscrew a reverse thread. Amazing. The beak is something else you need to train. You need to train them to use the beak for things. But I train them to be able to play with my fingers and to be gentle with a finger. I can't imagine why anybody would want to train a bird to be gentle with fingers. They're gentle. You think that's funny? Do you, Chloe? Do you? I don't know why anybody would want to train a bird to be gentle with fingers, but they understand that our fingers, that we're a little more soft. We're a soft creature, unlike them. They're not biting feathers when they grab a hold of us. They're getting a hold of flesh. Once they learn that, they're pretty gentle, and they have nerves in their beak, so they know how hard they're pressing on you. They know that, don't you? Don't you? Salamander. Meander, meander, meander. Salamander bird. salamander bird. That's right. A salamander bird. Hello, sweetheart. How are you? The big salamander. The big salamander. Oh, I touched your head. Oh, shame on me. Shame on me. You don't let anybody touch your head. I know. The hardest bird there is to preen. Don't let anybody touch his head. Alright? So you train him to be gentle with the beak. Train him to come up off the floor with the beak. It's easier if you just put your finger down. They grab a hold of your finger. You can lift them straight up and sit them on your shoulder or sit them in your lap or whatever you're going to do. Now, you teach them to preen other birds. Bob had to be taught. It was Laurel that taught him to preen. You can also teach them to preen you. They can preen beards and hair. If you've been spraying hairspray in your hair, you don't want them preening you, though. You don't need that plastic acrylic stuff in there. That's a salamander. That's a salamander. Yeah, it's a salamander. He's a good boy. Now, this is a good teaching experience here, a learning experience for them, and one for me to teach. They rarely get into situations where they're this close to each other. And Bob's a thief. He loves to steal things the other birds are playing with. He's thinking about it. Yeah, it sure looks like it. That's his look when he's about to take something from someone else. It is, isn't it, Bob? Oh, I see the feathers on the back of your neck go up. Yeah, it's a sign of birds getting aggressive. Those feathers on the back of the neck go up by themselves. So this is a good teaching situation. Come on. That's my boy. What a good bird. Come here. Well, come on. Well, come on. Silly. I'm not telling him to step up, so it's just come on as a slow kind of, just take a step forward kind of thing, right? There you are. That's my boy. Good boy. Yes, you are a good boy. So you teach them preening. You teach them to avoid certain other parts. You break up any preening where they start going to under the wings or towards the tail section. And as far as preening with you, keep them pretty much preening the head. See what he's doing here on the hand is not a good thing, so I'm going to pull my hand out of there. He's not going to hurt me. He's an adolescent, so what he's trying to do is to have, he's trying to take my hand as a mating partner, and that's not a good thing. We're not going to let him do that. We certainly don't want this big boy mated to us. No. That turns you into a cruise missile. We have a video, which he stars in. He used to be a cruise missile before he came here. And we diffused that, didn't we, Sal? He still has a few issues, but he's a good boy. He gets along well, don't you? You do, don't you? There's playing with toys by yourself, and there's playing with toys close to someone else. But they need to be able to play with toys in close proximity. So at first, you get them to play with toys, and with cockatoos, you teach them to play with toys. With parrots, you teach them to step up. It's not too hard to get a parrot to play. Now, let's be nice, Bob. Be nice. Come on, Sal. Bob's getting territorial. That's his little spot, so it's okay, sweetie. It's okay. It's okay. I know. It's all right. It's just his territory. It's okay. That was nice of you, Sal. That was a good boy. It's one of his happy behaviors. He was doing it to Bob, and Bob's stretching out his beak with his tongue, which means he's okay with things right now. Right, Bob? Every bird has a slightly different reason for doing these behaviors. They didn't learn them from a flock. So they learned them individually from various people. So you'll see different behaviors. You may see the same behavior. One bird may take its tongue and stretch his beak out like Bob does for totally different reasons. Bob does it when he's fairly relaxed and he's happy. He'll do it if you're being really sweet to him and telling him he's a great bird and all that. He'll do it. In his case, usually when I see that behavior, it's a positive social indicator. With other birds, sometimes they'll do that when they're upset. So just like someone might go like this and their hand across their head when they're thinking, or they might do this when they're upset. And I'm trying to do the upset thing. They might do it because they're upset. They might touch their head like this when they're just not sure of things. So the behaviors are very similar, but there's different reasons for them. So you'll see that with birds. Bob, he's trying to teach him how far he can go in this mess. You want one of these sticks? There you go. So I hand it. You tell him, Chloe. And Chloe is an example of someone who is out of the social loop. She was in a mated relationship, so I'm reteaching her social behavior. Right, Chloe? Chloe bird. And then it's easier when it's between you and the bird, but you can teach a bird to play with you. See, he dropped the toy, and then I see him just. I just keep giving it back to him. He'll drop it, and then I give it back to him. So you can actually get them to play with you. I have Snowball who plays Frisbee with me, so he didn't start out that way. He started out with the lids from the tops of jars, and now he actually plays with real Frisbees. And he used to just take the Frisbee he would take the lid, and he would run back to you with it. But now with the Frisbee, he throws them back. So he's learned a different behavior over time. Slowly condition him to do something different. And it's good too if you teach them a behavior and if you just expand it and show them that they can modify the behavior a little bit. Then they can educate themselves on how to deal with the world and make changes. Yeah? You agree? Basic summary is that you're going to teach them some life skills to make them healthier and happier. And the first life skill they need to learn is how to teach themselves, how to learn from their environment. So in that process, the best thing to usually do is to teach them targeting, to follow your hand for a treat, and then step up is the next one you teach. And then I would focus on making sure that they know how to use their body parts and they're comfortable with having you touch their feet. They're comfortable with having you do their nails. They're comfortable with you doing the exams where you can get their wings out. You can get each of their wings out and look at them. Where you can take them. Bob, come here. You can take them and you can get them upside down. What I did with the doctor when he said, I'm gonna have to examine his cloaca, and I just flipped him right over. You be nice. You be nice. And what I'll usually do when you get birds where one's showing a little aggression to the other, I'll generally use my hand to just kind of hold them back. When Simone was here, she was so territorial trying to defend her mate, who didn't need any defense. Cecil's a pretty strong bird, but she saw it as she had to defend him. And if you tried to get in the way when she was going after the bird, she would bite pretty hard. But that's what you do. You just put your hand out to stop them. And they eventually figure it out. Like, he knows. That means stop. Yeah, you don't have to stop now. You can go wherever you want to go. You can go wherever you want to go. Again, teaching them to be comfortable with being touched, to learn how to do new things. It's like playing chutes and ladders, like playing cards, like learning to handle blocks, like all these different things they teach in kindergarten and first grade. You know, this is basically where you're going to be teaching. Those are the levels you're going to be teaching. They're smart, but they don't have our language, so you're going to teach things at that level. And, and things like this. You can't have sexual behavior with the wrong species. That's something I have to teach you. And all I did was lift him up and then kind of unbalance him by moving my hand back and forth to keep him from trying to have sexual relations with my hand. I just move my hand back and forth like this. And then if I sit him back down, no, I'm sitting back down. No. You're not sitting back down. You're getting a little focused there, guy. Well, you are just a little bit. Now, he doesn't like to have his head preened. So now what I'm doing, and not irritating him too much, but I'm going for his head and trying to preen him. Kind of consider this a cold shower for him. So, because doing something he's not that thrilled about, he doesn't hate it, he just doesn't prefer it. So, that gets him out of the mood. Every bird's different. You're going to find different ways to doing it, but you'll find something that'll break it. So just unbalancing them by moving your hand back and forth or your arm back and forth. And then in this case, going after his head because it's something he doesn't prefer, or something that you can just distract them with. So you're going to teach them how to learn, how to deal with social situations between bird, male, female, male birds situations, and then human interactions, and how to deal with things like how to get into a carrier. You teach them that, because when if we had a fire once, if I couldn't have got all the birds we had, which was 6 at the time, and this was early on. If I couldn't have gotten all those birds into cages and out the door in a minute, then I would have had a problem. Now, if you had to go get a towel and grab them, because when I got to the 6th bird and I was going out the door, the wall lit up in flames. So, mice are nice when they eat the wires in the wall. You want to be able to grab your bird and take them in a situation like that without freaking them out or without having them just bite you because they're just scared to death you're going to hurt them. So you want them to be unafraid in their lives in order to be healthy and happy, you have to be able to go to the doctor without freaking out. So going to the vet is an important one. You have to be able to get your physical exams. Another thing that you have to do, which I failed to mention, is you need to teach them to eat the right foods. And if anything I've said so far, nothing I've said so far is more difficult, in my opinion, than teaching a bird that doesn't eat well to eat well. If you were raised on Snickers and Kit Kats and cookies and all that when you were young, by the time you get into your teens, you're pretty much stuck on all that sugary junk food. Well, they often end up to eat seed like that, or they'll be on other foods, human foods that aren't good for them, that are loaded with salt and bad kinds of fats and things. They'll be getting too much fat or too much protein, things that aren't good for them. So that's a hard one. In order to do that, it's going to take some time. Sometimes if you're making a mash for them that you can blend and give it to them via syringe, say 3 or 4 times a week while you're trying to train them into new foods, that's what the new bird you're bringing in. Sometimes they'll eat that because if you warm it up and it's like 105 degrees, somewhere in that range, they'll eat it. Be careful not to get them anything too hot. You don't want to burn their crop. By the way, I have my hands under Peaches because she cannot reach her tail, and I preen her automatically. So I will get my hands under her wings and preen her because she can't do it. And there's hundreds of feathers in there that just come in as little hard barbs that don't feel good to her, so I have to preen them. It's a constant thing, so she has mated to me, but that's because somebody's got to do her tail end. She had 2 impacted feathers, and $1,000 later, she's okay. She might have died because of the infection she got in those impacts. And that's simply because she can't take care of her own tail. So training them to eat food, what you do there is you put the food that whatever is they normally were eating. If they were eating, let's say they were eating a seed mix, and they won't touch anything else. Then what you can do is put that seed mix in there for half an hour. And then after that, you put just a tiny sprinkling of what they're used to eating on top of whatever is they're going to eat, such as pellets, which is the best thing, of course. Some birds that were raised on just seed won't eat, they won't eat greens, and they won't eat fruit and that kind of thing. So again, if you have to, blending it, offering it to them warm in a syringe is kind of how they eat from their parents. If they were in a breeder situation, they probably had syringe feeding or tube feeding, so they'll react well to that. And then you can just slowly reduce the amount of that you give as they start to eat the good pellets, the Harrisons or the Rowdy Bush. And it's going to take time. With Sugar, she's been going on 3 years now, and she eats a much better diet. But you still have to syringe feed her because she'll pick out things like squash, and she'll eat just that. And if you don't give her those individual things, now that's a lot better than the Frosted Flakes she had when she first came here. She was pretty much eating just the worst junk food you could imagine. Sugared cereals were like her staple. So, and you don't want to change it too fast when it comes to food because they'll stop eating and they may freak out. In her case, I switched her over to better varieties with less sugar in it, and it disturbed her way too much. So it took about a year to get her to eat mash. She would eat a little bit of the mash along with things like yams. I just tried a lot of different cooked foods. She likes yams, which has got good vitamin A in it, so I gave her that. And then she liked things like potato, and she likes jams, so I got some all-fruit jam, and she'll eat like strawberry jam. First it had sugar added, but I've got her to the no sugar added now. Just a tiny bit, just to need a little tiny bit in the middle of her food bowl, and that kind of gets her started sometimes. Although other times she'll go straight for the yams and eat those, or she'll go for the muffins. She likes the muffins I make, and you can mix in softened pellets and make muffins that have softened pellets in them. And pumpkin muffins are good like that. Pumpkin banana with oatmeal. She likes her muffins, so she's not eating as well as I'd like, but she is compared to the Frosted Flakes, she's doing a heck of a lot better. So that's probably the hardest behavior to teach because it isn't so much just a behavior as they've learned to like the flavors of certain things, just like we do. To be healthy and happy, though, they need to have these areas of their lives open to the learning experience, and they got to feel comfortable. So Thanks for watching Cockatoo. This has been episode 30. You want to say goodbye to the people? Who wants to say goodbye? You want to say goodbye? No. Do you want to say goodbye? Do you want to say it? Okay. Say goodbye. Say goodbye to the camera. Say goodbye. Hello. See you next time. We welcome your feedback on our videos. We look forward to your insights, tips, questions, stories, and pictures. You can email us at cockatude@chloesanctuary.org, reach us on Twitter @ChloeSanctuary, and join with us on our Facebook Chloe Sanctuary page.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.